The human traveler moved slowly through the alien city, his boots pressing against the wet ground. The air was heavy with mist, thick and curling around the strange towers that rose like jagged teeth. Lights glowed faintly through the haze, giving everything an unreal glow. He tightened his cloak around himself, for even though the air was warm, the weight of the unknown pressed on him. The city was alive with sounds, but not the kind he knew. Strange voices whispered in sharp tones. Footsteps echoed on metal bridges, and the hiss of steam came from vents in the ground. Everywhere he turned, alien eyes followed him. Some filled with curiosity, others with clear distrust. He felt like a stranger who had wandered into the wrong place. And yet, he could not turn back. He had come here for trade, or so he told himself. His ship needed parts, and the markets of this city were said to have everything. But as he walked deeper into the mist, he wondered if the stories had been lies. The stalls he passed sold things he could not even name: glowing crystals, sharp-edged tools made of bone, vials of liquid that shimmered like stars. None of it looked meant for human hands. Then he felt it. The gaze, it was sharper, heavier than the others. It cut through the mist like a blade. He turned slowly and saw her. She was tall, taller than him by at least a head. Her skin was a deep shade of silver, marked with faint glowing patterns that pulsed as if alive. Her eyes glowed faint gold, not with warmth, but with intensity. And her tail long, powerful, moving with purpose, curled once behind her before stilling. She stepped forward, each movement silent, but filled with strength. The crowd melted away. Aliens that had been watching him suddenly turned aside, pretending not to see. Their silence was louder than any shout. The human's chest tightened. He did not know who she was, but everyone else clearly did. She stopped in front of him, so close he could see the faint mist dripping from her skin. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Only the hiss of steam and the distant hum of machines filled the silence. Then, in a voice low and edged like metal, she said, "You do not belong here." The human swallowed. His mouth felt dry. "I came to trade," he answered, his voice steady, though his heart pounded. Her eyes narrowed. The patterns on her skin brightened slightly, and her tail moved again, slow and dangerous. "Trade?" she repeated, as if the word itself was strange. "No human comes this deep. No human dares." Before he could speak again, she moved. Her hand shot out, gripping his arm with a strength that surprised him. Her skin was warm hot, even as if fire lived inside her veins. He tried to pull back, but it was useless. She was stronger, far stronger than him. "Wait," he began, but she did not. She turned and dragged him with her. The crowd did not interfere. They only watched as he was pulled away, their faces unreadable in the mist. The human stumbled as she led him through narrow alleys. Steam hissed from the walls, the heat growing stronger with every step. The mist thickened until he could hardly see. But she never faltered. She moved as if she knew every stone, every shadow, every hidden door. Finally, she stopped at a tall gate made of black stone. Strange symbols were carved deep into it, glowing faintly red as if heated from within. With one motion, she pushed it open. A rush of hot air struck him, filled with a sharp scent of minerals and a heavy taste of steam. He tried once more to resist. "I didn't mean to trespass," he said. But his voice was swallowed by the sound of the gate closing behind him. The chamber inside was unlike anything he had seen. The walls glistened with moisture. Steam rose in thick clouds, and pools of water glowed faintly as if alive. Strange pipes lined the ceiling, dripping hot liquid into the pools below. The whole place pulsed like a living creature, heat and life flowing through it. She released his arm at last, but her tail snapped once against the ground. A sharp warning. He froze, his body tense. "What is this place?" he asked, his voice quieter now, her eyes locked on him. Her golden gaze seemed to pierce through his very thoughts. "The chamber of steam," she said, her voice carrying weight. "No human has entered it and left unchanged." His heart hammered. The mist curled around him, thicker, hotter, pressing against his skin like invisible hands. He wanted to run, but his legs would not move. The alien woman stepped closer, her presence overwhelming. "You should not be here," she whispered. Her voice softer now, but far more dangerous. Her tail coiled slowly, as if preparing. "Yet here you stand." He took a step back, but the chamber's heat pressed harder. The air was alive, the steam whispering like voices. He realized too late that he was trapped, not by walls, but by her. Her tail lifted, wrapping lightly around his wrist, not tight enough to hurt, but enough to remind him of her power. Her touch was both strange and terrifying. "You are mine now," she said, her words final. "And you will not leave until I decide." The mist thickened, the pools hissed, and the chamber seemed to breathe around them. The human's fate had already shifted, though he could not yet understand how. The human stood still as the heavy gate shut behind him, sealing him inside with the alien woman. The sound echoed like thunder before fading into the hiss of steam. His chest rose and fell quickly. Every breath, hot and damp, as if the air itself wanted to choke him. He wiped his forehead, but the sweat kept coming. The alien woman moved with ease, her long frame cutting through the mist like it obeyed her. Her glowing patterns shone brighter here, as if the chamber itself gave her strength. She circled him slowly, her steps echoing against the wet stone floor. Her golden eyes never looked away. He tried to stay calm, but the chamber was alive with strange energy. The walls glistened with moisture, and the floor trembled faintly under his boots. Pipes above released bursts of hot vapor, making the whole place rumble like a giant breathing. Pools of bubbling water gave off strange colors, green, blue, and red, all glowing faintly in the steam. The place was not just a room, it was something sacred. "What do you want from me?" the human asked, his voice firm, though he felt the weight of her presence. She tilted her head, the faintest smile curving across her lips. Her long tail swept slowly along the ground, leaving a wet mark on the stone. "You asked the wrong question," she said, her tone sharp. "The right question is, why did I bring you here?" The human's heart pounded. He wanted to demand answers, but he held his tongue. Instead, he studied her movements, noticing how her tail twitched whenever she grew serious, noticing how her glowing skin pulsed like fire when she looked at him. Without warning, she stepped closer, her tail lifted and wrapped around his arm again, this time firmer. The heat of her touch burned through the fabric of his sleeve. His muscles tensed, but he did not fight. "Your kind," she whispered, her voice low and edged with bitterness, "always comes to take, always comes to claim what is not yours." The patterns on her skin pulsed brighter, steam swirling around her like a cloak. "But here, in this chamber, you have no power. Here, you are mine." He gritted his teeth. "If you wanted me dead, you would have ended it already," he said. His voice echoed in the chamber, louder than he intended. Her golden eyes glowed hotter, and for a moment he thought she might strike him. But then, to his surprise, she laughed. The sound was deep and smooth, yet filled with danger. "You are bold," she said. "I dragged you here to see if you are more than weak words." The human's pulse raced. He did not know if her words were a threat or a challenge, but the way she spoke made him believe she had not chosen him by mistake. She turned and walked deeper into the chamber, her tail releasing his arm. With one motion of her hand, she gestured for him to follow. He hesitated, but the sound of the locked gate behind him reminded him he had no choice. Slowly, he followed her through the rising steam. The chamber opened wider the farther they went. Massive stone columns rose from the glowing pools carved with alien symbols. The heat grew heavier, pressing down on him. He could feel it burning in his lungs with every breath. His steps echoed, sounding too loud in the sacred silence. At the center of the chamber was a raised platform. Steam gushed from cracks in the stone, making it look like it floated on a sea of mist. She climbed onto it with grace, her glowing markings flickering brighter as she stepped into the rising vapor. She looked back at him, her golden eyes sharp. "Stand here," she commanded, pointing. To the platform opposite her, he climbed up, his legs heavy. His body ached from the heat, but he forced himself not to stumble. He stood tall, meeting her gaze. For a long moment, they said nothing. Steam rose between them, curling like living spirits. The silence stretched until his heartbeat was the only sound he could hear. Then she raised her tail again, coiling it in the air. Her voice carried like thunder in the chamber. "This place tests those who enter. It burns lies, it crushes fear. It strips you down until only truth remains." The human clenched his fists. "And if I fail?" he asked, his voice steady. Her smile returned, slow and dangerous. "Then the chamber will swallow you," she said. "The pools will take your body, and your name will vanish in the steam." The chamber rumbled as if answering her words. The pools bubbled louder, the heat spiking until his skin stung. He felt the weight of her test pressing down on him, heavy as stone, but he did not bow his head. He did not look away. Instead, he took a step forward. "Then I won't fail," he said, his voice cutting through the mist. Her golden eyes widened slightly. Her tail stilled in the air for the first time. Her expression shifted from cold control to something else, interest. The steam thickened, wrapping around them both. The chamber pulsed like a living heart, and in that moment, he knew this was only the beginning. The human stood on the stone platform, steam curling around his body. His skin burned from the heat. His lungs ached from the heavy air. But he refused to step back. He faced the alien woman, her glowing eyes fixed on him with sharp focus. Her tail swayed slowly behind her, like a weapon waiting to strike. For a long moment, there was only silence, broken only by the hiss of boiling pools. Then she spoke, her voice strong and steady. "You are not the first human to come here," she said. Her words carried through the mist like a blade. "But you may be the last." His chest tightened. He could hear the weight in her tone. And he knew this was not just a game. "What happened to the others?" he asked. Her golden eyes glowed brighter. "They lied," she said coldly. "They pretended to be brave. They claimed strength they did not have. The chamber saw through them, and it took them." The human swallowed hard. His heart pounded, but he kept his eyes on hers. "And you think I am different?" he asked. For the first time, her expression softened, only slightly. Her tail brushed the ground, making a low, scraping sound. "I do not think," she said. "I sense it." She moved closer, steam clinging to her skin like a second layer. Her patterns glowed with faint light, pulsing with her heartbeat. She raised her tail again, wrapping it around his wrist with surprising gentleness this time. The heat of her touch burned, but it did not crush him. "This chamber is sacred," she whispered. "It is where truth is tested, where fear is stripped away. No one leaves without being changed. If you are false, it will destroy you. If you are true, it will mark you." The human breathed slowly. His thoughts swirled as heavy as the steam around him. "Why bring me here?" he asked. "Why me?" Her gaze sharpened. "Because my clan has forgotten," she said. "They see humans as weak, as liars, as takers. I brought you here to prove them right, to prove them wrong." The words struck him like a hammer. He realized then that this was not just about him. This was about her, her people. And their view of his kind, you risk your own honor, he said, his voice low. If I fail, they will blame you. She gave a short nod. Yes, she admitted. But if you succeed, then I will have shown them that humans can stand, and you. She paused, her golden eyes searching his face. You will not walk away unchanged. The human felt the chamber pressing down on him, as if the very walls were listening. So this is a pact, he said slowly. I prove myself here, and you risk everything on me. Her lips curved faintly, almost a smile. Yes, she said. Unspoken, yet binding, the chamber rumbled as if in agreement. Steam swirled thicker, forming shapes that seemed to move in the edges of his vision. He blinked, but the shapes remained dark forms with glowing eyes. Whispers that echoed in his ears. He clenched his fists. What is happening? He asked, his voice rough. The chamber listens, she said, her tone calm. It hears our words. It knows the pact we have made. Now it will test you. The shadows in the steam grew clearer. They looked like creatures, monsters with claws. Twisted figures from his nightmares. He stepped back, his heart racing. But her tail tightened around his wrist, holding him steady. Do not run, she commanded. Her voice fierce. They are not real. They are your fears. If you face them, they will fade. If you give in, they will consume you. The human grit. His teeth, his breath came fast, but he forced himself to stand. The first shadow lunged from the mist, claws reaching for him. His instincts screamed to dodge, but he held still. The figure passed through him like smoke, vanishing into the air. Another came, this one bearing his own face twisted in pain. It whispered in his voice, "You will fail. You will die here." His jaw tightened, but he shouted back, "No." The shadow shattered into mist. He felt her eyes on him, sharp and unblinking. Her tail eased slightly, no longer crushing, but steady. She was watching, judging. Perhaps even hoping. More shadows came. Visions of battles, memories of loss, faces of people he had failed. They swirled around him. Their voices cruel and heavy. But he forced himself to walk forward, each step breaking the illusions. At last, the steam cleared and the chamber grew quiet again. The whispers faded, leaving only the hiss of the pools. He fell to one knee, exhausted but alive. She stepped closer, her golden eyes glowing brighter than ever. Her voice carried both pride and warning. "You faced the chamber and did not fall," she said. "But the pact is not finished." He looked up at her, his body trembling. "Then what is left?" He asked, her tail uncoiled slowly from his wrist. But instead of letting go, it wrapped around his chest, binding him in its heated grip. "The chamber has tested your fears," she whispered. "Now it is my turn." The human's breath caught. As the coil tightened, the heat pressed into him, his heart racing. He realized this was not just a trial of courage, it was a trial of trust, and in that moment, he understood. The unspoken pact was not between him and the chamber, but between him and her. The chamber pulsed with heat as the alien woman's tail tightened around the human's chest. The coils pressed against him, not enough to break his ribs, but enough to remind him that escape was impossible. Steam curled thickly around them, hiding the walls, hiding the pools, making it seem like the world beyond her did not exist. Her golden eyes glowed brighter than before, sharp and unblinking. "The chamber has seen your fear," she whispered, her voice like steel wrapped in fire. "Now it must see your truth." The human's heart hammered against her grip. His clothes were drenched in sweat, his breath ragged in the hot air. "And how do I prove that?" he asked. She tilted her head, her glowing markings flickering across her skin. "You will step into the steam," she said. "Alone, you will walk until the chamber decides. If your soul is false, it will burn you. If your soul is true, you will endure." His throat went dry. The thought of stepping deeper into this place, without her tail guiding him, filled him with dread. But he knew this was the test she had spoken of. The unspoken pact between them now demanded action. Slowly, her tail loosened, uncoiling from his chest. The heat of her touch lingered even after she stepped back. She gestured toward a thick wall of steam rising from a fissure in the stone floor. The vapor hissed and twisted like a living thing. The human swallowed hard, wiped the sweat from his brow, and stepped forward. Each movement felt heavier than the last. His boots echoed on the wet stone. The sound swallowed quickly by the mist. The steam closed around him at once, burning his skin, stinging his eyes. His vision blurred until he could not see his own hands. He could barely breathe. Every breath searing his throat, but he forced himself onward, step by step. The first vision came quickly. The steam shifted, and from it formed the figure of a soldier in black armor. The soldier carried a blade stained with blood. The human froze, his chest tightening. He knew this figure was from a war long past. A battle where he had fled instead of fought. "You ran," the vision said in a voice that echoed like thunder. "You left them to die." Shame twisted in his chest. He wanted to argue, but deep down he knew it was true. Yet he clenched his fists and forced himself to speak. "I cannot change the past," he said, his voice hoarse, "but I will not run again." The vision let out a scream and dissolved back into mist. The heat pressed harder. But he took another step. The steam thickened, forming again. This time it was not a soldier, but a child. A small face looking up at him with wide eyes. "You failed me," the child whispered. "You promised to return, but you never came back." The human staggered. His knees weak, the memory cut deep. It was from his old life, a moment he had buried. But the chamber had torn it out. He trembled, his body heavy with guilt. He dropped to one knee, pressing his hand to the hot stone. "I cannot undo it," he whispered, "but I will carry it. I will not pretend it did not happen." The child's image faded, the steam swallowing it whole. The chamber rumbled, as if acknowledging his words. Step by step, he pressed forward. His body felt weaker, the heat draining his strength. His skin burned, his lungs ached. Yet something inside him pushed him onward. Then the final vision came. The steam twisted until it became the alien woman herself, her golden eyes staring into his, her tail coiling slowly. The image stepped close. Her voice a low whisper. "You are nothing," it said. "You are weak. You will fail me, like you failed them." His chest tightened, his heart pounded. This was worse than the soldier or the child. This was her, the one who had dragged him here, the one who was testing him. If he failed this vision, then the real her would never trust him. He closed his eyes, his body trembled, but his voice cut through the mist. "I am not perfect," he said. "I have failed. I will fail again, but I will not break. I will not lie. I will stand." The vision hissed, the steam swirling violently. Around him then, with a burst of heat, it shattered. Leaving only the hiss of the pools, the human stumbled forward, his legs nearly giving out. Then, at last, the mist cleared. He collapsed to his knees, coughing, gasping for air, but he was alive through the fading steam. He saw her waiting. The alien woman stood at the edge of the fissure, her golden eyes fixed on him for the first time. Her expression was not sharp or cold, but almost proud. He dragged himself forward, each step heavy. Finally, he reached her. His chest rose and fell, his body trembling, but his gaze never left hers. "You faced it," she whispered, her voice lower than before. "The chamber tried to break you. And you stood," her tail lifted again, coiling gently around his arm. This time it was not a restraint, not a threat, but a bond. Her golden eyes softened, just slightly, perhaps she said slowly. You are not like the others. The chamber quieted, the steam easing back into the pools. The trial was done, but the pact between them was far from finished. The chamber was quieter now. The steam drifted more gently. The pools bubbling in soft rhythm. It was as if the place itself was resting after the trial. But the human knew it was not over. His chest still burned with heat. His body ached from the visions, yet his eyes stayed locked on the alien woman. She stood tall, her silver skin glistening with drops of mist. Her glowing markings pulsed like the beat of a heart. Her golden eyes burned as they studied him, and then, without a word, her tail lifted slowly into the air. The human stiffened. He remembered the strength in that tail, how it had wrapped around his chest like a serpent. But this time it did not strike or restrain. Instead, it slid forward with slow precision, curling around his arm once more. The heat was fierce, but steady, not crushing. Her voice echoed softly, low and commanding. The chamber has judged. You, she said, but my judgment remains. You face your fears, but truth is more than courage. Now my tail will decide. The human frowned, sweat dripping down his temple. Your tail? He asked. Her golden eyes glowed brighter. For my people, the tail is more than flesh. She explained, it carries our spirit. It senses lies. It binds truth. When I wrap it around you, it will know your heart. If you lie, it will squeeze. Until you break, if you are true, it will release, and you will be marked as mine. The words struck him like a hammer. Marked? He asked. Her tail tightened slightly, her voice sharp as a blade. Do not fear the word, she said. Marked means bound, protected, chosen, but it is not given freely. Only truth earns it. The human's pulse raced. His instincts told him to resist, to pull back. But something deeper kept him still. He had come too far to turn back now. Her tail coiled higher, wrapping around his chest once more. The heat grew stronger, each coil pressing harder. He gasped, but he did not fight. He felt the weight of her spirit pressing into him, testing, waiting. Speak, she commanded, her voice low and steady. Who are you? He clenched his fists, his voice cracked but did not break. I am a traveler, he said. I am a man who has failed, who has lost, but who will not run. I do not bow to fear. I do not lie to myself. Her tail tightened suddenly, crushing his breath. His chest screamed with pain. His vision blurred. He grit his teeth, forcing the words out. I do not belong here. But I will not dishonor myself. For a moment, he thought his ribs would shatter. The pain was unbearable, but then, as if hearing the truth in his voice. Her tail loosened, the pressure faded, the heat eased. Her golden eyes widened slightly, her markings pulsed faster. She drew her tail back just enough for him to breathe. Then she leaned closer, her face inches from his. Do you fear me? She whispered. He swallowed hard, his lungs burned, but his voice came steady. Yes, he admitted, I fear your power, your strength, but I do not fear your judgment. Her tail twitched, her coils trembling against his body, and then, to his surprise, she laughed. Not mockery, but something deeper. At last, she said softly. A human who speaks truth. The coils loosened further, sliding gently down his chest. She let her tail rest lightly around his wrist, no longer binding, no longer threatening. Instead, it felt almost protective. The chamber rumbled faintly, the pools bubbling brighter. The air seemed to hum as if the very stones acknowledged the moment. The human gasped for breath, sweat dripping from his hair. But he stood tall, refusing to fall to his knees. He met her gaze without flinching. What now? He asked. Her golden eyes softened, just a little. Her markings dimmed. And her tail curled tighter around his wrist. Not with force, but with finality now. She said, you are bound too. Me? He froze. Bound. He asked again. She nodded slowly. It is the way of my people. She said, to trust is to bind. To protect is to claim. You are not a prisoner. You are not prey. You are mine. The words struck him harder than the coils ever could. His mind raced with questions, but his heart beat with something else, something he could not name. Her tail unwrapped fully and slid back behind her, but the heat of her touch lingered on his skin. The chamber seemed calmer now. The mist thinner, the air less heavy, but he knew this was not the end. It was the beginning of something far greater. The alien woman stepped back, her eyes never leaving his. Her voice carried through the chamber, heavy with meaning. The binding tail has accepted you. The chamber has accepted you. Now you must decide if you accept me. The human's breath caught. The choice hung in the air like the steam itself. He had survived the trial, endured the visions, and faced her binding. But now came the hardest part, not survival, but choice. The silence stretched. The pools bubbled softly, and the chamber seemed to wait. Her golden eyes never wavered, her presence filling the air. Her words echoed again in his mind. You are mine? And for the first time, he wondered if he truly wanted to leave. The human stood trembling. His wrist still warm where her tail had bound him. The steam lingered in the chamber like a living veil, glowing faintly in the dim light. His body ached, his mind spun, but he could not look away from her golden eyes. They held him as firmly as her coils once had. She was silent for a long time, her gaze unreadable. Then she stepped closer, the mist curling away from her as if obeying her will. Her glowing markings shimmered like fire beneath her skin. Her voice came low, soft, but filled with power. You do not understand what has happened here, he swallowed, his throat dry. Then tell me, he said. Her tail lifted again, not to bind him, but to gesture at the chamber around them. The pools bubbled, the columns glistened, the steam hissed in rhythm with her words. This place is not only a test, she said, it is a bond. It was built by my ancestors long before your kind walked among the stars. Here we test strength, not of body, but of spirit. You survived what? No. Human has survived, and so the chamber has claimed you. The human frowned, his heart thundering. Claimed me? He asked, her golden eyes narrowed. Yes, she said firmly. You are now tied to this place. To me, to my people's law, you are bound not as prisoner, but as chosen. The words sank heavy into him, his breath quickened. Why me? He asked. I did not ask for this. Her tail swept across the stone with a sharp hiss. Her markings flared brighter. Do you think I asked? She snapped. Her voice cracked like thunder. I dragged you here to expose you, to break you. I wanted the chamber to prove that humans are weak, liars, thieves of trust. But you. She stopped, her voice trembling for the first time. You endured. The human blinked. Stunned by her sudden honesty. So you doubted me? He said slowly. Her eyes softened. Though her stance remained proud, I doubted all of you. She admitted, but now I stand here, and I cannot deny what I have seen. The chamber rumbled faintly, as if responding to her words. The pools glowed brighter, the steam curled higher, the air felt alive. Heavier with meaning, he stepped forward. His voice quiet but steady. And what does this mean? For us? Her tail twitched, curling once before resting. Her golden eyes locked onto his with fierce intensity. It means I cannot let you leave, she said. Not because you are a prisoner, but because you are proof. If I release you, my people will destroy you. They will see you as a threat. They will call you cursed. But if I claim you, they will bow to tradition. They will bow to me. His chest tightened. Claim me. He echoed, She nodded slowly, her markings glowing like molten veins beneath her skin. "By the law of the chamber, you are now bound to me," she said. "As protector, as ally, as more than either of those words can explain, in my people's eyes, you are no longer an outsider, you are mine." The words struck him harder than any trial. His thoughts swirled, his voice came soft. "And if I refuse?" Her expression darkened, her tail lashing once against the floor, sending sparks of steam into the air. "Then the chamber itself will take you," she whispered. "Refusal means betrayal, and betrayal in this place means death." He stared at her, his breath sharp in his chest. The choice was not truly his. Yet something in her voice told him it was more than force. There was weight, yes, but also vulnerability hidden beneath her sharpness. He took a slow step forward, the mist curled around his legs. "You dragged me here," he said, his voice quiet. "You tested me, you bound me, and now you claim me. But why do I feel you are as trapped as I am?" Her golden eyes widened at his words, her lips parted. But no sound came for a moment. Finally, she lowered her head slightly, her voice softer than he had ever heard. "Because it is true," she admitted. "I brought you here to prove a point. But the chamber bound me as well. By claiming you, I am also bound. My clan will see this and hold me to it. I cannot take it back. I cannot undo it. Your truth has tied us both." The silence that followed was heavy. The steam rose quietly. The pools bubbled low. It was as if the entire chamber was holding its breath. The human's chest rose and fell. His fear was still there. But something else grew with it, a strange pull, a connection that he had not expected. He met her eyes again, his voice steady. "Then this bond. It is not chains, it is choice." She looked at him sharply, but her tail softened, curling gently near his side. "Yes," she said finally, "a bond of choice, a bond of truth, stronger than chains. The chamber has revealed it. Now it is ours to carry." For the first time, the heat of the chamber felt less heavy. The mist seemed less suffocating. The human realized the trial had ended, but something greater had begun. He had entered the chamber as an outsider, a stranger pulled into a world he did not understand. Now he stood bound, not by force, but by revelation. And though his body ached, and his spirit shook, a new strength grew within him. The alien woman stepped closer, her golden eyes softer, her voice trembling with weight. "From this moment, you are no longer alone," she whispered. "And neither am I." The chamber rumbled one last time, the sound deep and final, as if sealing the truth in stone. The chamber was quiet now, the heavy steam thinning as if its work was done. The glowing pools no longer hissed with anger, but shimmered softly, reflecting light across the stone walls. The human stood facing the alien woman, his chest still heavy with breath, his body aching, yet his spirit refusing to bow. She looked at him, her golden eyes steady, her tail swaying slowly behind her. The strength in her posture had not faded, but something else had appeared, something almost fragile. She had dragged him into this place as prey, tested him as a stranger, but now she stood before him as if waiting for something more. "The chamber has bound us," she said, her voice low. "Its law is clear. You are claimed, you are mine. And I am bound to you, but now it is not the chamber's voice that matters, it is yours." Her words cut through the mist. He blinked, his heart thundering. "Mine?" he asked, her tail curled lightly around itself, a nervous motion he had never seen before. Her golden eyes softened. "Yes," she said. "The chamber can bind, but you must choose. Will you accept what it has given, or will you turn away?" The human's chest tightened. He felt the weight of the choice pressing down on him. His mind swirled with images of the trial, the visions, the crushing coils, and the fire in her gaze. He remembered her laughter when he spoke truth, the trembling in her voice when she admitted her own bond. He stepped closer, the steam curling. Around his boots, his voice came steady, though his body shook. "If I accept, what does it mean?" Her golden eyes glowed brighter. "It means you are one of us," she whispered, "not as prisoner, not as servant, but as bound. You will live under my protection. My claim, my honor, my people will see you as mine. They cannot touch you. They cannot harm you, but you will never again be only human. You will be more and less, both at once." The words sank heavy in him. He felt the finality of them, the weight of a bond that would not break. Yet he also felt the truth her people would kill him if she released him. He had no place outside this bond. "And if I refuse?" he asked, his voice quieter. Her tail struck the stone with a sharp crack, the sound echoing like thunder. Her voice hardened. "Then you die," she said. "The chamber will take you. My people will rejoice, and my honor will be broken. Refusal is death for you, and shame for me." The silence stretched, the steam thickened again. The pools bubbled softly, as if whispering their judgment. The human stood, frozen, caught between chains and freedom, between fear and trust. Finally, he lifted his head. His voice came low but firm. "You dragged me here against my will," he said. "You tested me. You tried to break me. And yet, I do not hate you. I do not see chains. I see something else." Her golden eyes widened. Her tail stilled in midair. She stepped closer, her breath warm against the heavy mist. "Then speak," she whispered, almost pleading. His chest rose and fell, his body trembled, but he did not look away. "I choose," he said, his voice steady. "I choose to stay." The chamber erupted with sound. The pools hissed brighter. The stone trembled beneath his feet. Steam burst upward in a great column, glowing with strange light. It was as if the chamber itself had roared with approval. Her tail snapped around his wrist again, but this time with no threat. The heat pulsed in rhythm with his own heartbeat. Her golden eyes glowed fiercely, her markings blazing with light. "Then it is done," she said, her voice breaking with relief. "You are mine, and I am yours." The human felt the bond in his chest. Not chains, not force, but something deeper. Something that reached beyond flesh. For the first time since entering the chamber, the heat felt less like fire and more like warmth. The alien woman leaned closer, her golden gaze holding his. "Do not think this path will be easy," she warned, her voice sharp again. "My people will not welcome you. They will doubt, they will test. Some will try to tear this bond apart, but you will not stand alone. Not ever again," he nodded, his jaw tight. "Then let them come," he said. "I faced the chamber. I faced my fears. I will face them too." Her tail coiled once more, this time resting lightly against his side. Her lips curved in the faintest smile. "You speak like one of us already," she whispered. The chamber grew still again, the steam settling, the pools calming. The trial was finished, the choice made. But outside the stone walls, beyond the mist, a larger world waited. A world that would not understand. A world that would challenge everything. The human looked once more into her eyes. The alien woman who had dragged him into the steam chamber, who had bound him, who had tested him. Now she was no longer his captor. She was his bond, his shield, and his fate. And as the last echo of the chamber faded, he knew that whatever awaited them beyond its gates, nothing would ever be the same.